Welcome to my videocast about knitting books, etc. Today is the 2nd of February and this is my 7th episode. I have just finished recording, or I thought I was recording, but poof, and I was so relieved when I reached the end of the recording, but I don't know what happened and nothing remained. It was everything disappeared. So if I look a little bit bored or tired, it's because I'm repeating everything I just said. Again, let's start. Finished objects. I have some dishcloths I started knitting recently. The idea came from the Yarn Hoarder podcast, and she decided to knit one dishcloth per week, and I immediately accepted the challenge and started knitting dishcloth. So I first grabbed a cone of unknown cotton I have. It's very rustic and it has vegetable matter. It was my mother's and I like it a lot. I like this weight of yarn. I like the size of the dishcloth. The others I have are from the Aldi supermarket and they are sport weight. So, sorry, this one here. They are not as thick as that one, and the squares are a little bit smaller and flimsier, but my intention is to use them in the kitchen as rags to replace paper towels. I want to avoid using paper and disposable stuff. I'm trying to produce as less waste as I can. So if I have lots and lots of these small rags, I can, this one had a knot and I decided to leave it because, again, this is a kitchen rag where if I spill something on the floor, I will use one of these, just clean the floor and put it immediately in the washing machine. So that's my intention. I am caught up because we are in the 5th week of the year and I have 5 dishcloths already ends woven in and ready to be used. And that's what I'm going to do, one every week. Then works in progress. I am knitting the Chimera cardigan by Amy Herzog from the book Knit to Flatter. It's a cardigan worked in pieces with cables. I am loving this is a picture of the back. I am really enjoying knitting this. I am using Fonti Mongolia 3, which is a sport weight yarn, and it's 85% wool, 15% baby yak. And I have finished the back. So this is a garment knitted in pieces. The color is here, it's a little bit better. So this is the back with the two cables along the sides, and then I am now knitting the first front. So I am almost at the end. I have already decreased for the armhole, and it's It's very, very entertaining. It's also a very quick knit. If I were a monogamous knitter, I would have finished this already, but I'm not a monogamous knitter. So I have at the moment, I don't know how many cardigans and jumpers on the needles. I'm now just showing you the more active ones. The other one is another project where I'm using Fonty Super Tweed wool. It's 100% wool. No, it's not. I'm sorry. It's 95% wool and 5% mohair. So I don't know. This is a cardigan I will be wearing over other clothes, but I don't know if I hope I can stand the mohair because I don't normally I cannot, even if I'm wearing long sleeve t-shirts underneath, it still irritates my skin. So I have finished the first sleeve, and yesterday I cast on the other one. So I picked up the stitches for the other one. I worked the short rows and am now ready to continue working in the round and decreasing until the rib at the end. The cardigan has some lovely details like these. Oh, let me show you. Here in the back you have these 4 cables, and which then go you have them in the under the arms and in the front too. It's a lovely cardigan. Should have finished already. Should be finished already. But again, I stop for weeks and then I pick up again and continue working on it. I'm trying to be a little bit more monogamous, but with several projects on the needles at the same time, it's difficult. I want to finish these 2 cardigans. I would like to wear them this year before the summer. Let's see. Then I have a new project, which is my on-the-go, and it's the boxy cardigan by Jorge Locatelli. Boxy sweater, sorry, by Jorge Locatelli, and I am knitting it in the round because this is the type of knitting I can do while I'm traveling, commuting to work, in meetings, in the theater. Yesterday I went with my students to the theater, and I was able to knit all the time because I can knit without looking at it. The yarn I'm using is super soft, host gun super soft, which is 100% wool, and I am looking forward to see how it will be after I block it, because this is the type of wool that after you wash it, it will transform, it will bloom, and I am curious about how it's going to look. So this is, as you may know, a very large jumper with, I think, mine has 60 centimeters of positive ease. So it's drapey and flowy, and it's a style I like very much. And so these are my current projects. Then I have another type of project which is based on this book. This is a book of, if you want, the history of Portuguese knitting. And I don't normally knit, sorry. I'm mainly a continental knitter, so I don't normally knit using the Portuguese style of knitting. If I have long extensions of purling, I might knit with the Portuguese knitting style because, as you may know, the Portuguese knitting style, for example, many knitters, what they do is using the yarn around their necks and while knitting, and then they knit like this and use the left thumb to pass the yarn over the needle. But and so because the yarn is always in the front of your work, it's much easier to purl. I think it's the easiest way. I have learned to purl. For example, if have this Chimera cardigan, the red one I just showed, what I did was I knit continental style, I purl English style. And the reason is that when I purl English style with my right hand, I tight a bit my purling, and so the texture is more balanced, because if I purl continental style, it's much looser than the way I knit. When I'm doing some ribbing or things like that, I normally use the continental style and the Norwegian purl, where I can purl maintaining the yarn behind my work. Large amounts of purling, like for example, I think that while I was doing my exploration station, I think I had one or two parts where I had a long line of purling. I used the Portuguese knitting style. I don't normally wear the yarn around my neck, because even if I'm wearing clothes and put the yarn outside my collar, it still hurts my skin. So I use a knitting pin. This is the most common type of knitting pin. I prefer my old knitting pin that my mother gave to me. It's already a little bit blackened, I have to clean it. And it's a traditional farmhand person. And we wear the pin here on the sides of the cloth. Then you catch the yarn instead of around the neck. You put the yarn here on the pin, and then you knit normally. And again, the yarn is not only is it stretched, and it's in the front of your work. So why am I telling you this? Because this book is about the history of Portuguese knitting. It has lots of pictures of traditional knitted items, history of knitting, and then it has 20 look at these are examples of traditional socks used by men from the north of Portugal. They are called the pauliteiros de Miranda. You have also lots of traditional material used in Portuguese knitting. You have the Portuguese knitting techniques. Many of them I don't know, so I'm going to learn. And I decided that I was going to practice this style of knitting. So I'm going to make some of the projects of this book. And one of the interesting things is that many of the projects are knitted on the wrong side, because instead of using the knitting, you use the purling technique. So, for example, one of the smallest projects you have here are these little pockets, and as you can see, they are in stocking stitch, but it's stocking stitch which is made by purling, not by knitting. So if it's in the round, you purl every round, and then of course you're working from the inside, and that's what I'm going to try to learn. So you have here lots of typical, this is a caul, typical project. These are arm warmers. The picture here shows, and which I think are actually lovely, and also other arm warmers, so they are very typical. You have also some socks, and I am curious about here. I'm going to make these socks, and I'm going to purl all the way. So I think they are going to take me a long time to make, but I'm going to follow the instructions as they are here. The problem is that everything is written, so I normally follow charts. I will have to make a chart because I cannot work following written instructions only. So I'm going to read this very slowly. This is all in Portuguese, and although Portuguese is my mother tongue, my knitting vocabulary is in English. I have some difficulty in following Portuguese instructions for knitting, so I am going to do that, and I'm going to knit. Actually, I'm going to purl these socks here, as I showed you. I hope I'll be successful. I might start by making a small pocket, as I showed you here. It was traditionally used by men and women to keep coins or small objects, and I'm going to make a small pocket like this. So here you have some examples, and then I'll see if I'm feel able to make my Portuguese socks using a traditional pattern and traditional techniques. I will report here my progress in this project, and we shall see. So I am going to finish here. I think that this is a very short podcast, and it is much shorter than the first version, which perhaps it's good. It will be faster to upload. I hope I didn't rush things very much, but I am